Hi, I'm Kristen, and today I'll be expanding on my experiences in the void, and in particular, I will be talking about bubbles due to a meditation that I had in the past week. So, in the other videos that I've mentioned, the void, it typically appears as this kind of black, infinite space. And then there is almost within this large empty space, a smaller space that seems to be contained with warm air, but there's no walls, there's no borders or anything like that. And when I go to this void space, at first there's nothing, and then something will appear directly in front of me. So it might be an object, it might be some type of a being or a person that I know in real life that is communicating with me. But anyway you cut it, it's really kind of just this one set empty spot where kind of there's no openings, there's nothing else happening. It's just me and whatever is right in front of me. I've also been to kind of like a white space that reminds me of the Matrix. I was going through what seemed like a church, and then when I came out the other end, there was like a wall missing, and I entered into just this kind of bright white empty space, and it just seemed like a location where kind of anything could be manifested from. But again, it's not as if there was a location beyond the space. The void kind of just is the void. It's just empty. So that for the past couple of years, that was kind of the only experiences that I had with a void space until this past week. And before I kind of get into what I saw during my meditation and kind of the ramifications or the message of what was given to me, I'd like to quickly go over some notes that I took about like the importance of the bubble or what the bubble might mean from like a philosophical or religious perspective. Okay, so in Hermetism, reality is seen as temporary shimmering emanations. And so those emanations can be bubble-like, especially with like how they shimmer. And then in Buddhism, reality is described as foam or bubbles, temporary and empty. Consciousness is akin to bubbles forming and popping. And so physically, bubbles can also amass and multiply, but then they drift off and disappear. What we see is beautiful but impermanent. So from a big picture perspective, you see the bubble as kind of possibly accounting for people or experiences, and they can come together, but nothing lasts. There's just like kind of all these wonderful, magical seeming moments, glistening, but it's there and then it's gone. You can't get it back once it's gone. And so also there's this idea of bubbles when they're all together being sudsy, and so when they're stuck, they're kind of permanently stuck, and then they collectively burst. And this is also kind of an idea that was formed in, I believe, the 1980s in cosmology, where like galaxies were seen as sudsy. So galaxies too also will kind of gravitate to one another and stay in one general area, and they'll make up almost like a blob and they'll be in like the void of space, and then there will be another sudsy stuck together area of galaxies, and it goes on and on and on for kind of as far as our telescopes and various satellites and everything can see out into the universe. And so it just seems like there is this type of coherence to symbolically our lives, but also just how reality is formed, how the universe is formed, that is bubble-like, sudsy. So to get into the meditation that I just had, I was laying down in bed and I was focusing on like a kind of like manifestation in abundance type of meditation. So I'd gone through all of these thoughts in my mind of just kind of magnetizing like wonderful positive things into my life and kind of scrubbing out the bad. So whenever I start a meditation, I say the Lord's Prayer, and I kind of try to cleanse my energy by breathing in white light and breathing out like black smoke or gray smoke, what have you. And so I had done that, and in my mind's eye, I wasn't seeing anything. And then I found myself seeing these kind of phosphenes. And so I've spoken about this before in a video as well. But typically I'll see like these rolling bands that are like a yellow, golden, brass type of color. Sometimes they'll come in as kind of like a dim blue or different types of colors, but usually they're like that yellowy, brassy type of color. And so instead of seeing bands this time, I started seeing I suppose it would be a ring that was moving clockwise, except the top left corner of this ring, like as I could see, like it was a certain thickness in certain areas, and thinner and thicker as it went around, so I could see where the certain part of the circle was as it was turning. And the top left corner would keep dropping out, and it would keep dropping out as this was turning. And so I was watching that for just a few seconds, and then I found myself launched into the void. And so this is not something that has ever happened to me before during a meditation. The void is typically a place that I go to in that in between awake and asleep space, where I've been sleeping, and then right before I'm about to wake up, I'll be in the void. So I was back in this black void, and I noticed that there was this huge pile of bubbles to my left, and it almost seemed like they were like from a foam party or something. There was all these like I would say like smaller bubbles and then like larger bubbles, and they were all just making up this huge pile that was to my left, and all of the bubbles were kind of gray. And so I remember kind of looking at them and then just starting mentally to try to start touching them. And as I was going to touch this bubble mound or bubble mass, the void opened up. And this is not, again, this is not something that has happened to me where I've gone to the black void in a meditation and anything's happened. So what happened is directly above my head, I saw just a circle open. And this was something that Robert Monroe spoke about in his books, where when he went to the void or saw the void, it would always be somehow attached to this circle where he could stick his hand in, or just kind of go through, or if he was in the void, he would go through a circle and it would lead him to somewhere else. And this is the first time that I've ever had this happen. So above my head, I saw this circle open up, and so it felt like I was standing on my tippy toes or just kind of forcing myself upwards or my spirit upwards. And so I just gotten my eyes above the edge of this circle of the void, and I saw that I was in either a dirt road or a dirt path right beside a field. And so for a while now, there's this field that I kind of go to in this astral space, and I feel myself just kind of in this warm air with a light breeze, and I'm just standing amongst this like really tall grass. And so it seemed like when I popped up out of this circle in the void, I was on the very edge of the field. And so because I was looking straight up from the ground, I was looking up past the tall grass and kind of to the clouds in the sky. And so the clouds in the sky were storm clouds. And for whatever reason, I just instinctively just started grabbing these bubbles that were to my left, and I just started hoisting them up through the circle that was like now at about eye height. And so I watched as these gray bubbles just like kind of went up and just kept going, went up in like far up into the sky, and then all of a sudden it just like winked out. So then there was no more void, no more bubbles, no more sky, nothing. And so I didn't open my eyes during my meditation. I just kind of let myself just sit with the blackness. And so there's a very it's a definite like difference between just seeing blackness in your mind versus seeing the blackness of the void. It's in one you're in a space and one you're not, so it looks very similar, but it wasn't the same. So I sat just, I suppose, looking at the back of my eyelids for a few seconds, and then the void came back. And this time there was no bubbles next to me, and then the circle that was above my head was instantly back there when the void returned. And so this time I was able to force myself up even further. And so from kind of my chest up, I had my body up out of this hole and back in this kind of dirt road next to the field. Because there was no bubbles, there was nothing kind of to do, I suppose. I just kept on looking up at the sky. And what I felt was that as I impressed my energy upwards and into the clouds, I was like pushing away the storm clouds. And there was like a very clear feeling or a very clear message that was coming to me that like I can use my energy to kind of push away negativity, push out negative energy. And it wasn't just something that I could do within me. It was a feeling of having like complete control of my outside world. And so again, typically, like as I mentioned, I'll start my meditations like flushing out the bad energy from within my body by kind of breathing out this like gray, black kind of smoke. But this went far beyond that to kind of like, no matter how far the reach is, no matter how far away something is, or just kind of intangible, it seemed like the message was, you can impact that too. Like it seems far away, but that is also kind of like within your grasp. So I just really wanted to kind of come on here and talk about this meditation because I felt like that was just such an important message that for anybody that focuses on manifestation or focuses on the fact that like your thoughts create your reality. So many people think small. So people think so often about their kind of immediate circumstances and what they can change about where they're living or the exact type of position they have in their company or um, low level career goals or just how can I get this small amount of money or like these tiny little perks in my life. And like, well, that's all well and good, and they're small sources of happiness. There's much bigger things that you can do into your life, pretty much. Like, I know that's very cliche to say the sky is the limit, but truly, whatever you can think of, you can make it happen. As far as even changing the weather, um, making huge changes in your life, making huge changes even in society. If that's what you're seeing for yourself and what you really want, you could see entire group dynamics change. You can see an entire organization change if you think that something isn't being run properly or something isn't happening right. But yeah, there was this kind of message that came over me that like stop thinking small. Like you have to think like really big and think of kind of the huge ramifications and cascading butterfly effects that you can have by kind of manifesting certain things into your life and then thinking, well, how can that go from one thing to another thing to another thing? Again, just like all the bubbles that were stuck together and kind of influencing one another. Like one pops, they all start to pop, like that type of feeling. But yeah, it was like just like this sensation of keep looking bigger and bigger, because like your reality is yours, the timeline you're on is yours, and there's no real reason to settle for just small changes when you can think of just anything it is that you're wanting to see happen in the world, happen in your life, and you can make that happen. Um, so if you have ever had a message like this come across where it seemed like spirit or God itself was talking to you about going like go big or go home essentially, and just thinking of really big goals for your life, please let me know. Uh, and I guess that is it. So thank you so much for listening today, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.